So I was thinking that all of us sentient beings are chained to cyclic existence by the force of our self-grasping ignorance. And yet, how many people even recognize that that's the situation? And even people who may have a tiny thought that that's the situation, how many have the opportunity to learn how to do something about it? And especially on Memorial Day weekend, which is the beginning of summer, when, you're supposed to be out having a barbecue, eating somebody else's body and enjoying it. So it's quite remarkable, to be able to be here this weekend and really spend some time investigating what our situation is and how our mind functions. It's not a easy to come by or popular thing to do. They're not going to write us up in this week. Each city has this week. The fancy things you can do. So, learning about self-grasping ignorance is not one of the things that they're going to put down as, the next exciting thing to do. But it's really the most important thing to do. Okay, let's continue. Yeah. So last session we were really, we talked about if the I existed in that very exaggerated way, or even in a less exaggerated way, but still somewhat exaggerated, then it would have to be either inherently one and the same with the aggregates, the body and mind, or inherently separate. We talked about the pitfalls of either one of them. And then from that investigation, we're to reach the conclusion, therefore, the I does not exist inherently. So that does not mean the I does not exist at all. It means that it doesn't exist inherently. Okay, and then His Holiness talked about how to see if you're really touching the subtlest level of self-grasping by seeing if you take that same way of thinking, that same analysis, and apply it, let's say, to your body, and see if you come up with, well, there's no inherently existent body, or if somehow it just doesn't ring a bell, the experience isn't as strong. So if it is as strong, then we have indeed negated inherent existence. But if our experience then isn't so strong, then it could be that we've actually negated a self-sufficient, substantially existent self, which is grosser, coarser than an inherently existent one. Yeah. And so then he was saying that what we really have to slowly, learn to discern is that subtle one. And we do it by first refuting or negating the very gross ones, and then, by peeling away those layers of an onion of false conception, then we begin to see a subtler form of inherent existence that actually appears to us all the time, but we don't recognize it. Okay? Because when we don't have some strong emotion or blatant exaggeration, there's still the feeling of I. So there's a dependent I that exists, but it's covered with that very subtle film of, but it's really inherently existent. Yeah. But it's just the subtle film. It's not the flashing red, hi, I'm an inherently existent one. So we don't notice it so much. We have a hard time noticing the flashy one too. Okay, because we're usually distracted to other flashy stuff. So, yeah, so this, it's a process of slowly observing the mind. Yeah. So like I said before, just getting some kind of understanding of how this works, even on an intellectual level, is very good because we've got to start at that level. Yeah. Whenever we understand a new subject, we always start on the gross level. Always. Yeah. I mean, when we learned to read and write, we didn't just sit down and start doing cursive handwriting and know how to type. We all started with A, B, C, and, that kind of stuff. So it's the same thing here. Okay, so we finished the little section called Persistence is Needed. And now there's a meditative reflection, which acts as kind of a review of what he just spoke about. So His Holiness says, go through the 4 steps of analysis described in chapter 15. What are those 4 steps? First one? Identifying the feeling of an inherently existent self. Second one? Yeah. So if the I really existed that way, there's only 2 ways it could exist. Either it's inherently one with the body and mind or inherently separate. There's not a third way. So you have to decide that very clearly, that there's not a third way. Because after you investigate one way and after you investigate the other way, you want to come to the conclusion that therefore it doesn't exist that way. But if in the back of your mind thinking, well, maybe there's a third way, then your analysis isn't going to be conclusive. Third step, okay, seeing the problems if the aggregates in the I are inherently the same. Fourth one, yeah, so seeing the problems that arise if they are completely different and unrelated. And the conclusion of the meditation is, that there is no inherently existent I. Okay, so that is the emptiness of the I. Okay? Then, second step here. When the sense that the I is self-instituting falls apart and vanishes in a void, switch to considering your arm or your body, for example. Why is this? Yeah, so whether we can see whether we have negated the coarse sense of self or the subtle sense. Okay. Then 3, see whether the sense that your arm or your body inherently exists immediately vanishes due to the previous reasoning. And next point, if the previous analysis does not immediately apply to your arm or your body, your understanding is still on a coarser level. Yeah, so that just gives you information to work with. Okay, then next section, keep working at it. The sign that you have truly become impressed with the absence of the concrete solid existence of the I occurs when you consider body or mind and no longer take their appearance to be true. Okay? You cease investing so much confidence in their exaggerated appearances because you have become impressed with the absence of inherent existence discovered through meditative analysis. This diminishing of confidence in the truth of appearances is a sign of success, And through continued meditation, it can grow stronger and stronger. This process is how you come closer and closer to seeing yourself as you really are. Okay? So our investment in how things appear to us, we begin to have some doubts that things really exist the way they appear. Yeah? We begin to question if, what appears to us is actually exists that way. And so by questioning it, we don't get so involved in it, so emotionally captivated, so emotionally reactive. Okay? It doesn't mean we become dried up emotionally. It just, there's still room for love and compassion and all sorts of positive emotions. But what it means is that the disturbing afflictions, the afflictions and disturbing emotions, they don't come as strong because we don't see everything as such a crisis situation. Okay? Like, we can see in our life different times some kind of thing. Have you ever had the experience of something happening to you now that was very similar to something that happened to you a few years ago, but you find that your way of responding to the present situation is very different than how you responded a few years ago? Yeah. Hopefully, if you're making progress, the way you've responded now is, not such a big, making it such a big deal as we used to make it. Okay? But when we grasp it inherently existence, especially when we think we are some kind of, self-instituting, self-enabled, existing under our own power, me, then everything that happens to me is a national disaster. Yeah? So when we have very strong emotions, how sometimes we get wigged out about something and we're really upset for a period of time, that indicates that our grasping at inherent existence is very strong. So not only the affliction is strong, but our grasping is strong. And that's why we're, painting this whole drama and reacting to the situation in such a strong way. Yeah. When our reaction is more tempered, we can still see things like and discern this is beneficial, this is not beneficial. But our emotional involvement in proving ourselves and getting our way is not that intense. Okay? So don't think that when we negate the inherently existent I, that after that we just say, well, everything's fine, there's no good, there's no bad, there's no beneficial, there's no not beneficial, everything's just all oneness, and I shine it all on. Okay, if you think like that, you have not realized emptiness. Yeah, or you have not, what you've probably realized is, you've gone down the slippery slope of some kind of nothingness. But when you understand emptiness well, you also see that karma and its effects operates, and that causes bring results. So you still care about what is beneficial and what's not beneficial, because you realize on a conventional level that we're creating the causes for our experience. And when we look at other people, we see that people experience pain and pleasure as a result of their actions. And so we can respond with compassion to other living beings. Yeah. So realizing emptiness isn't just, there's no pain, there's no pleasure. All these sentient beings aren't really suffering. So why should I do anything to help them? Yeah, that's not what it's saying. Okay? And similarly, if somebody is assaulting you, yeah, if you've realized emptiness, you don't get angry about it. From your side, you're not angry. Oh, who does this guy think he is? He's assaulting me. I'm going to call the cops and get him and retaliate and put him in prison and screw this guy. We're not going to get into that. But we're not going to say, oh, assault, no problem. This guy, I'll just let it go. He can go assault somebody else because that other person also isn't inherently existent. That's foolishness. Yeah, if somebody is doing something harmful, we have to protect them from themselves. Not punish them, but protect them from their own anger and so on. Okay? So this is important because sometimes, when we hear about emptiness and releasing self-grasping, then we think, I just become a bump on a log. They start World War III. They toss a bomb at North Korea. No problem. Yeah. Well, maybe you're not afraid of being hurt because you've realized emptiness and you're not attached to your body. But others sure are afraid. And so we have to act with compassion to protect everybody. Okay? Realization of emptiness is difficult, but if you keep working at it, analyzing and analyzing, comprehension definitely will come. You will understand what is meant by searching for inherent existence, but not finding it. Searching for what is so strongly imagined and not finding it. Yeah. It's like you really believe in the tooth fairy. Yeah. You really, or Santa Claus, better. Yeah. You really believe in Santa Claus. Yeah. And it's so important. And then you analyze to find out who Santa Claus is. And there's no Santa Claus anywhere. Not at the North Pole, not at the South Pole. Rudolph doesn't know where Santa is either. Yeah. So then, that's the emptiness. Look, Santa doesn't exist. Now, if you've really believed in Santa, and Santa's been very important in your life, this is a big shock. Yeah. So similarly, we have a lot of investment in inherent existence and grasping on it. So it can be rather shocking to us when we start analyzing and we can't find ourselves. We can't find an inherently existent person that we thought we were. Okay. But that's okay. Yeah, being shocked, being surprised, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Some of you looked so disappointed when I said there was no Santa. Yeah? we need a better example, because Santa makes you think of, getting something good. We need an example, like the boogeyman, maybe. Yeah. Maybe Santa at nighttime becomes the boogeyman. Yeah. Okay. This non-finding appears to the mind as emptiness, first weakly, and then with more and more clarity. Though initial insights are not the most profound, as you keep at this process, they will get deeper and deeper. Okay? Through a preliminary sense of emptiness, you will gain a clearer sense of what ignorance is. This will lead you to better experience of emptiness. Knowing emptiness better will, in turn, enhance your identification of ignorance and what is being negated. This identification will deepen the impact of the reasoning as you use it again and again, inducing more and more understanding and undermining your belief in what is exaggerated. This is how you undo trouble. Okay? So he's saying, we have to keep working at it, and it's a gradual process. And it's not that we get some glimmer of emptiness, for 2 seconds, and now our life is entirely different, and all of our self-grasping vanishes. We never get angry again, and so on. Okay, it's a gradual process. When they talk about enlightenment in one lifetime, that means enlightenment in this lifetime being one lifetime. It does not mean that you haven't practiced in lots of previous lifetimes. Yeah, it means you have practiced in lots of previous lifetimes. So this lifetime becomes the one where you get awakened. Okay, so chapter 17, extending this insight to what you own. So this is a quote from the Buddha. Just as you have come to know the false discrimination of yourself, apply this mentally to all phenomena. Okay? So just as we have analyzed to see whether the I inherently exists, now we have to analyze and apply it to everything else. Okay? So to review, if there is a concrete I, then it would have to be either one with the body and mind or different from body-mind. Since both of these possibilities are riddled with logical fallacies, you have to come to the conclusion that such a concrete I does not exist at all. Okay? It is relatively easy once you have understood that an inherently existent I does not exist, to realize that the sense of inherently existent ownership is mistaken. Okay? So inherently existent ownership is referring to the thought of my or mine, the I as something that owns and possesses things. And what are the things, the chief things we possess? A body and a mind. After that, we possess a car and a hat and a computer and all those other things. But the two chief things are the body and mind. Okay. Mind and body are objects used by that I. The I is like an owner to whom the body and mind belong. Indeed, we say, my body is a bit worn down, or my body is fit. Such statements are valid. Yeah, we say, my body's healthy, we refer to my body. Okay? Even though you do not think this is I when you look at your arm, when your arm is painful, you definitely do think I am in pain, I am not well. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, When your arm hurts, you don't look, or your stomach hurts. Let's take your stomach. We have hurting stomachs more than we have hurting arms. So when your stomach hurts, yeah, we don't think I am my stomach. Yeah. You don't think that there's an I that is floating around somewhere in that stomach, with the tissue that's the border of the stomach being the outline of the person I. We don't think that. But when our stomach hurts, we do say, I hurt, I'm in pain. Okay, I'm not well. So, while sometimes we seem to think that we are our body, that isn't very deep and it doesn't last long. Yeah? We feel more that we own our body. Yeah, we possess a body. Not so much that we are our body. So what it's getting at here is that the feeling, the grasping that I am my body, that is not an innate grasping. That's just a thought that comes sometimes. We don't innately think we're our body. We don't innately think that we're our mind. Yeah. So this truly existent I that we think exists, we don't really think is union oneness with the body or union oneness with the mind. But we still see the I as related somehow to the body and mind, because when the mind is unhappy, we say, I'm unhappy. And when our stomach hurts, we say, I don't feel well. Okay? So similarly, we speak of my mind, and we might say, my memory is weak, something is wrong. You are the trainer of the mind, which is like an unruly student who is going to be taught to do what you want. Okay? In this way, the body and the mind belong to the I, and the I is the owner. Okay? So we express that more, not so much like, I don't feel well, but why do we say I don't feel well? Because the body doesn't feel well. Okay, why do we say I'm forgetful? Because the mind is forgetful. So we see the body and mind not as actually who we are, but more as what we possess. And we kind of want to make our body and mind cooperate with what we want. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, there's a real I, and we can make our body not get old, and we can make our mind intelligent. Yeah? Sometimes we feel like that. Yeah, there's a real me. I'm going to boss this body and mind around. I'm going to control my body and mind. I'm the big chief and they're the subjects.
It seems like both things are true. There are moments where I think I have a body, I have a mind, but there are also times like, if you think about looking in the mirror, there I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am this body,
Yeah.
or I am a woman. I identify with that. I'm identifying with the body. So it seems like both of those things are true.
Yeah, we do have both of those thoughts, okay? But it's not inherently grasping. They say we don't, it's not innate grasping, okay? They say that we do think, oh, there I am in the mirror. Yeah, but they say that kind of thought isn't innate, because if it were innate, then we would never say, my body feels ill. We would only say, I feel ill. So the fact that we can go back and forth between saying, I feel ill and the body feels ill, and back and forth between I'm forgetful and, my memory isn't so good. The fact that we can go back and forth between those indicates that we don't have innate grasping for being inherently one with the body or mind. Yeah, I found that strange too when I heard it. But then, when you think about it, well, yeah, it's kind of true. We don't always think I am my body or I am my mind. Very often we feel like we're the controller of the body and mind. Okay, body, sit still. You're not going to wiggle during this meditation session. Okay, mind, concentrate. Yeah. When we talk to ourselves like that, we're definitely not seeing them as, the same. Okay. In this way, body and mind belong to the I, and the I is their owner. Though it cannot be denied that each performs its respective functions, still there is no independent I separate from the body and mind that owns these. So although the I, what the I functions to do is not exactly the same as what either the body or the mind functions to do, still there's no independent I that is separate, standing alone, existing from its own side without depending on the body and mind. Because if there were, you could be here and your body and mind could be there. Yeah. And if you start talking like that, your therapist is going to have something to say about it. Okay? Because that's not the way it is. Your eyes, ears, and so forth are indeed objects that you rightly see as mine. So calling them mine is okay. But they do not exist in the way that they so forcefully appear to your mind to be owned by an inherently existent I. So on a conventional level, yes, this is my bookmark. Okay? But there's not this thing of this is my bookmark with a big I that happens to be the owner of this bookmark. Okay? As Nagarjuna says in his precious garland, the Buddha, who speaks only to help beings, said that all beings have arisen from the misconception of I and are enveloped with the conception of mine. When you realize that the self does not inherently exist, then mine could not possibly inherently exist. Okay, so if there's no independent I, then there can't be any kind of independent I that is an owner of something. Okay. Now, what I find very interesting is this sense of my or mine and how it operates in our life. Yeah. And how we feel that there's an underlying real me that is the owner to different things. Okay, case in point. You go looking for a new car. Yeah? There in the showroom floor is your red sports car. Just what you've needed because you're in the middle of a middle-age crisis. Yeah. So the thing that is going to solve your middle-age crisis pain, that red sports car. Yeah. So, wow, it looks really good. Yeah, I want it. You come back the next day and somehow that red sports car has gotten scratched. Yeah. Well, it's too bad the red sports car got scratched, but they have other red sports cars that are not scratched. I'm not going to buy the scratched one. That one is not mine. I'm going to get an unscratched one. So you come back the next day and you give them some plastic and they give you a car. Isn't that remarkable? Yeah? Isn't that remarkable? You can trade plastic for a car. Don't you find that remarkable? Yeah? I mean, you just give them plastic and they give you a car. So you get your car, you drive your red sports car home. You make sure it makes lots of noise so that your neighbors know that, you are doing a good job at pretending to be in your 20s even though you're nearing 50. Okay? Where's why this red sports car is so fantastic and it's convertible, And this looks, I just love this red sports car. And you park it in front of your house so all your neighbors can see. Yeah. But we're not attached to what they think of us, nothing like that. But we do, it's kind of nice if they see our new red sports car. But the next morning we come out and my red sports car has a scratch. When the red sports car that was owned by the car dealer got scratched, it was not a big deal, was it? My brand new red sports car, the convertible one, got scratched. You become livid. My sports car. Yeah. This becomes very personal. Yeah. You take it extremely personally, as if the damage to your sports car means that you are damaged. Yeah. And that when your neighbors say, the first thing they're going to say is not, wow, what a cool red sports car you have. They're going to say, your red sports car is scratched. You just got stabbed in the heart. Yeah. Very interesting, isn't it? How we respond once something is called mine. And the difference between how we respond when it's not mine and when it is mine. And the difference between not mine and is mine is only a label. Only the word that we called, because we traded plastic for a car. So it's only because I traded that now I get to call it mine. And then everything that happens to mine becomes a big deal. Okay. How many of you are parents? Your child is your child, right? Even if they mixed up babies at the hospital, whatever you call your child, you become very attached to. And it's rather shocking. There was something not long ago where one woman in France, was it France or somewhere, she found out that there was a baby mix-up, and who she thought was her mom was not her mom, and so disorienting. And yet, calling somebody mom is just a name, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, when you have a child, you say, my child. Even if they mixed it up at the hospital, it's still my child. Yeah. When your child trips and falls, what's the difference between when your baby trips and falls and your neighbor's baby trips and falls? Is there a difference? You bet there's a difference. Yeah. When your neighbor's baby trips and falls, you don't react, okay, the kid's crying, pick it up, Or sometimes, have you ever noticed what kids do when they fall? They look to mom and dad to see if they're supposed to cry. We think they cry because they're hurt. They cry because we're telling them they're supposed to cry by how we react. Yeah. It's very interesting. Watch little kids. Yeah, when they fall. Oh, Mom, am I supposed to cry? Dad, does this hurt? Okay. So, yeah. What happens to the neighbor's baby? Of course, pick it up. It's not a big deal. Your kid trips and falls? This is a big deal. Yeah. The neighbor's kid fails their spelling test in second grade. You don't care. Your kid fails a spelling test in second grade. Big deal. You're frantic. They won't get into an Ivy League school. What will my mother say if my child doesn't get into an Ivy League school? And this is an indication of it because they failed their spelling test in second grade. We cannot let that happen anymore. Yeah? Neighbor's kid fails their spelling test. You spell check. You'll still get into an Ivy League school. You can't spell. It doesn't matter. I mean, the president, TAP, T-A-P-P. You can still be president and not spell. It's okay. And what was the other word? Council. Yeah? Yeah, couldn't spell that one. That one I have more empathy with. Yeah. But it's interesting, anything that is mine becomes big deal. But all mine is a conventional designation. What is it that makes something mine? It's just all of us agreeing that it's yours. Yeah. When we don't all agree that it's yours, then we hire some lawyers and we go to court and fight about it. So we fight about what the designation of this child is. Is it yours or mine? Or what the designation of your sports car is. Is it yours or mine? Okay. But it's quite interesting, yeah? So behind this thing of mine, there is this notion of me being an independent person who possesses not only my body and my mind, but I possess kids, parents, relatives, cats. My cat. My cat. Hello, my cat. Yeah. Don't just look at her. Yeah, you have a cat too. We know who your cat is. Who's Karuna's mom? Oh, yes, that's your cat. Okay, so your cat and your cat and your cat.
Who's Maitri's mom?
Yeah. So we possess all these things. And behind that idea of possession is a big inherently existent I. Yeah. Yeah. And do any of you think you're attached to your shoes? Yeah. Few of you think you're attached to your shoes. Yeah. But, around here, I don't know, most of us wear pretty old, grungy shoes. Yeah. That we would usually think, I mean, some of the shoes we wear, we threw away and somebody else took them out of the garbage. Yeah. But if they're not there when we need them, my shoes are gone. Who took my shoes? Yeah. Who moved my meditation cushion? Who moved my puja table? They put my mala on someone else's puja table. Yeah. You better hire a special investigator to see who did that awful crime of putting my mala somewhere else without my permission. Okay. So quite interesting, isn't it? Okay. So the meditative reflection here. Internal phenomena such as your mind and your body belong to you and therefore are yours. Conventionally, that's fine. Okay? External belongings such as your clothing or car are also yours. Conventionally, fine. Okay? The problem comes when we think that they inherently belong to me, or there's an inherent existent I that owns them. If the I does not inherently exist, what is yours could not possibly inherently exist. Yeah, this is very good to meditate on when you lose something, or when something breaks, or when a relationship changes. Yeah. There was no inherently existent me that possessed this to start with. Why am I freaking out? Okay, chapter 18, Balancing Calm and Insight. So this starts also with a quotation from the Buddha. Cultivation of meditative stability alone will not destroy the discrimination of inherent existence. Afflictive emotions can return, making all sorts of disturbances. So the meaning here is that simply developing single-pointed concentration, or what we call serenity, shamatha, will not overcome all of the afflictions. It will not overcome the self-grasping ignorance. Yeah. Instead, it just temporarily subdues those. But when we're not in meditative, concentration, then those afflictions can come back. Okay. So he uses the term calm abiding. I prefer serenity. Okay, calm abiding doesn't mean anything in English, does it? It's a literal translation of Gine, but in English, what does calm abiding mean? Yeah, so it's a very serene mental state that can focus, has concentration. So serenity can suppress counterproductive emotions, but it cannot totally remove them. Insight is needed because, as explained earlier, it can totally remove troublesome emotions and their consequent embroilments. Stabilizing meditation and analytical meditation must now work together. When they function this way, they can uproot problematic emotions and remove limits on intelligence so that you can fulfill the ultimate goal of helping others more effectively. Okay, so just having concentration alone cannot eradicate our afflictions and our ignorance. Yeah, just doing analysis alone cannot eradicate them. We need to put those two things together. Okay. The great clarity and stability of serenity open the way for analysis to provide truly powerful insight into the emptiness of inherent existence. With direct perception of the emptiness of those phenomena, yourself, other people, and things, that lead you into destructive emotions, problems can be overcome at their root. Yeah. So to combine serenity with insight, you need to alternate focusing or what we call stabilizing meditation with analytical meditation and bring them into harmony. Too much analysis will promote excitement, making the mind slightly unstable, but too much stability will make you not want to analyze. As the Tibetan sage Tsongkhapa says, if you solely perform analytical meditation, the serenity generated earlier will degenerate. Therefore, upon having mounted the horse of serenity, you should remain within analysis and then periodically alternate this with stabilizing meditation. Okay? So, in the Lamrim, we work on deepening our concentration. We work on understanding emptiness all throughout the path. Yeah. In terms of gaining realizations, first we need to actually get serenity, to have that mind that can focus on any object it wants to without either distraction or laxity for as long as we want. But that mind of serenity alone only suppresses the coarse afflictions. It doesn't uproot them. So we need the analysis. The thing is, when you analyze deeply, because you're really probing and investigating, that makes the single-pointedness of your serenity become unstable. Okay? Because serenity is focused just on one object. It doesn't move from that object. When you analyze, there's movement. So it's going to disturb the stability of the serenity. But if we only meditate with serenity and concentration, then it's so blissful and it's so comfortable that we won't want to analyze, in which case we will never succeed in overcoming our afflictions. So what we need, is to combine analysis and stabilizing meditation. So instead of interfering with each other, they complement each other. Okay. Now to do that, initially what we have to do is alternate them. That's what it's saying here. So we do we get some concentration, then we do some analysis. When we get some kind of conclusion from the analysis, then we focus on that with stabilizing meditation and concentrate just on that without analyzing anymore. When the vividness of the serenity fades, then we need to go back and do more analysis so that we really can clearly discern emptiness or impermanence, whatever we're meditating on. Okay? So we need to alternate these two. At a certain, when we gain serenity, what happens is we're able, through staying on one object, to gain physical and mental pliancy, which means that both our body and mind become completely serviceable and flexible and help us in meditation. Okay? But like I said, when we analyze, then sometimes it can make that serenity shake. What we need to do when, alternating them back and forth, is get to a point where the analysis invokes the pliancy. Where it's not just concentration that makes the mind pliant, But the analysis itself makes the body and mind serviceable so that it can stay one-pointedly on the object as long as it wants. So this is a whole different thing, because before the analysis interfered with the serenity, but now, after going back and forth many times, the analysis actually leads the mind into the pliancy that is required for serenity. Okay? So this is going to require a lot of meditation and, some time to do and so on. Okay? It's not going to come quickly. But that's how we do it. So when that analysis can invoke the pliancy and the serenity, that's called the union of serenity and insight. Okay? So previously, serenity and analysis were like the two ends of a scale, the one becoming slightly lighter when the other one became manifest. So when you're analyzing more, your serenity is a little bit spacey. When your serenity is deep, you can't analyze. Okay? So that your scale, the two balances are moving a lot. But now, as you skillfully alternate between stabilizing and analytical meditation, the power of analysis itself induces even greater mental and physical flexibility or pliancy than before, when serenity was achieved by stabilizing meditation. So this is a whole new thing. Before, your stabilizing meditation was what induced the pliancy that enabled you to have serenity, and the analysis was the disturbing element. Now they're so harmonized that the analysis induces the pliancy and leads you into serenity. Okay? When serenity and insight operate in this way simultaneously with equal power, it is called the union of serenity and insight. It is also called wisdom arisen from meditation. So sometimes we talk about the wisdom arisen from studying, the wisdom arising from contemplating or thinking about the teachings, and the wisdom arising from meditation. So this is what it is when you have the union of serenity and insight. Okay? When you have the unity of serenity and insight on the object of emptiness, then that's the demarcation of the path of preparation, the second path as you're ascending to liberation. Earlier, while reading and thinking about emptiness, your consciousness was aimed at emptiness as an intellectual object of inquiry, isn't it? That's how we are now. So your mind and emptiness were separate and distinct. But now, when you've brought these insight and serenity together so that they complement each other, but now you have the experience of penetrating emptiness without the sense that subject and object are distant from each other. Okay? You are approaching a state in which insight and emptiness are like water put into water. So insight is the mind, emptiness is the object. Okay? So at first, when we're still with the wisdom arising from studying the teachings, I'm here, and emptiness is, I don't know where in the world emptiness is, but it's external. It's another object. Then as you begin to meditate more and more, especially as you begin to develop deep concentration, then and your analysis gets deeper, then the feeling of an inherently existent subject, me, meditating on an inherently existent object, emptiness, starts to fade. Okay? When you have that union of serenity and insight on emptiness, the subject and object still appear separate, but they're getting real close to each other. When you finally break through, because what's happening, at first, when you unite serenity and insight on emptiness, is you're perceiving emptiness conceptually. So you're not seeing emptiness itself as it is, you're seeing it with the veil of what we call a conceptual appearance. So it sounds kind of crazy that emptiness is appearing inherently existent. But when we think that everything appears inherently existent to us until we reach the path of seeing, then it doesn't seem so strange to us. When we reach the path of seeing and we've overcome that conceptual appearance that veils us from seeing emptiness directly, then there's the experience of the mind of insight and the object of emptiness being completely indifferentiable. And so the example is like water poured into water. You have 2 glasses of water, you pour them together, you can't separate them. Okay? Now, when I think, what would it be like to perceive something, especially my own ultimate nature, without feeling that there's a me here understanding it, that is even hard to imagine. Because we're so familiar with this feeling of me perceiving it. Okay? So this is some subtle ignorance in there. We're talking about the subtle ignorance. This is it. There's a me here that's meditating on emptiness. And that's because there's still this conceptual appearance between us and emptiness. When through the force of the union of serenity and insight, we're able to cut through that conceptual appearance, then there's direct realization of emptiness. Okay, like water poured into water. And there's no feeling of me meditating on emptiness. So then you wonder, well, when somebody meditates on emptiness, how do they get out of their meditation session? How do they, if there's this feeling of, I'm indifferent, you don't even say, it's not that I and emptiness are one. It's not that I become one with everything. That's not it. Because as soon as you say one, how do you differentiate one? Because there's more than one. So saying one and more than one is still quite dualistic. So that's why we call it non-dual realization of emptiness. It's a pure negation. One is something positive. Non-dual is there's no subject and object. That's it. One is there's a subject and the object and somehow they're meshed together. Okay? So I think vocabulary here is quite important. Yeah, it's non-dual. There is nothing to hold on to. There is nothing to grasp. Yeah, there's no sense of, now I've got it. Hooray! I realized emptiness. Hooray! That's not what's going on in a yogi's mind when they have direct realization of emptiness. Okay? Because before they go into their meditation session, they make a determination to meditate for a certain period of time. This is what people do also, even when they have serenity, even before they've combined serenity with insight, is because when you go into deep states of serenity, yeah, you lose track of time too. So mentally, before you do, you say, I'm going to meditate for so much time. I don't know if you can change your mind in the middle of the meditation or not. Yeah. Gradually, the remaining subtle sense of subject and object vanishes, with subject and object entirely merging in total non-conceptuality. As Buddha says, when the fire of knowing reality just as it is arises from correct analysis itself, the wood of conceptuality is burned, like the fire of sticks rubbed together. Okay? So when you combine, knowing reality as it is, with correct analysis, with your serenity, then that destroys all conceptuality. Okay? Now, one thing that's important to understand here, just meditating on non-conceptuality does not mean you're meditating on emptiness. Meditative absorption on a non-conceptual state is not the same as meditation on emptiness. Okay? So, apparently, as the story goes, there was this big debate at Samye Monastery in the 8th century about this. Yeah? With one side saying that all conception is bad, just like clouds, it doesn't matter whether they're rain clouds or fluffy clouds, all clouds obscure the sky. So, in the same way, all conceptions whatsoever need to be banished from the mind, and just banishing all those conceptions is the ultimate nature. Okay, so that's what one side was saying. The other side is saying you can suppress all conceptions, but that doesn't mean you've uprooted the ignorance grasping at inherent existence. So that side's saying yes, ultimately you want to go beyond a conceptual understanding of emptiness. But to get to that non-conceptual realization, you need to study and you need to contemplate. And study and contemplation all involve conceptuality. Yeah, what are we doing right now? In teachings, we're thinking, we're using words and language. Yeah, we don't realize emptiness by sitting down and making the mind empty of all thought. Okay? Our kiddies, I think, a lot of times, mind empty of all thought. Yeah. I don't think they've realized emptiness, with all due respect, kiddies. Yeah. So it isn't just banishing all conception. It's not a realization of nothingness. It's a realization of the absence of a false way of existence that we thought existed. So now there's a meditative reflection. For beginners, it is helpful to learn this blueprint for spiritual progress because it will exert a powerful influence on your development. So just even hearing how you progress through this, it gives us a roadmap. Yeah? And these roadmaps are very, very important because, when you sit down and meditate, we can have all sorts of experiences. Yeah? Yeah, I remember when I first started meditating, I felt like I was falling backwards. I was seeing so many faces. Maybe I have, psychic powers. I'm seeing all these faces coming to me. That's all distraction. Just distraction. Yeah. Sometimes you meditate, some strong feeling of like incredible bliss. I must be close to Buddhahood. Yeah. Maybe it's just sexual energy. Okay? So, I heard the story of one meditator in Dharamsala, and he had just kind of casually mentioned to one of his disciples that he had a vision of Tara. And his disciple got all excited. Oh, you had a vision of Tara? You had a vision of Tara? That's really meaningful. Oh, this is fantastic, fantastic. And the meditator was completely nonplussed. He said, I don't know if it was really Tara or it might just have been my imagination. In any case, no matter what it was, I still have to keep meditating and gain realization of emptiness. Yeah? So we, we'll have one day where the visualization's really clear. Oh, there's the Buddha in front of me. I've had direct perception of the Buddha. Not really, sorry to disappoint you. But so the idea is, yes, these experiences are nice, and it's nice to know that you can have these kind of new experiences. But don't grasp onto them as inherently existent things to bolster your self-centered thought. Okay? Don't use them to create more self-grasping. They're nice. They're good. Isn't that fantastic? I had an unusual experience. I didn't know my mind could go there. And how do I use that experience to deepen my understanding of impermanence and emptiness and the kindness of other sentient beings and everything else? Yeah. Somebody wrote a book. What was it? After the ecstasy, the laundry. Yeah? And, why do you feel so disappointed after this fantastic experience? Because you grasped onto it. Yeah? I had this fantastic, I felt like I was one with the universe. I felt like I was one with the universe. Just that alone, you can see that you were not one with the universe. Because there was a big fat I there. Okay? So the thing is, just that's nice. I'm glad, unusual experience, good. I can experience all sorts of different things. Now let's keep practicing.
Yeah, I was just wondering how to negate the self-existent, inherently self-existing self when you feel like bodily pain, because then it is very difficult to separate self and the aggregates. Because when you feel bodily pain, you feel it and others do not feel it. Yeah. So no matter how much you analyze, it's you feeling.
Yeah, I'm in pain. it's very interesting to ask yourself if you can switch your attention enough away from the pain to investigate who is the I feeling the pain. Who is feeling the pain? When I say, I'm in pain, who is that I? Find that I. Yeah, that's one way to deal with it. Another way to say is to actually analyze what is the pain. I say I'm in pain. On what basis do I say there is pain? It's an interesting question. On what basis do I say there is pain? What really is pain? Or where is the pain? Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, I do this sometimes when I feel tired. Oh, I'm so tired. On what basis do I say I'm tired? What is it that I'm actually feeling that I call tired? Yeah, it's very curious. What is that feeling of being tired? Yeah, I find it's a certain feeling in my eyelids. Okay, you have a certain feeling in your eyelids. Why do you need to get in a bad mood because of it? Okay, if you're somebody who gets in a bad mood when they're tired. Okay, so it's quite interesting, you know. So this takes some time to work on it. Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, start with little pains. It's much easier with little pains to investigate, you know, who is the one who feels this. Yeah, sometimes when the pain is very big, then we're so much grasping at the pain that it's hard to differentiate ourselves. Okay, for the time being, you can alternate a little stabilizing meditation with a little analytical meditation in order both to taste the process and to strengthen your current meditation. So doing this. And then basically what he does, what the rest of page 170 and 171, going into 172 is the same analysis that we did before, except first you start out with a little bit of serenity, focusing your mind on the Buddha or on the breath to develop some calm. Then you go through that 4-point analysis, okay, which I won't reread again because we went over it this morning. And then he says, when you develop a little insight, stay with that insight in stabilizing meditation, appreciating its impact. So you get some feeling of, oh, I'm not existing the way I think I do. You know, I can't find the inherently existent I. Then you just stay with that one-pointedly. You don't go on to other things. Then, when a feeling diminishes a little, return to analytical meditation to reinstate that feeling and develop more insight. Okay, so you alternate, you go back and forth. Switching back and forth between focusing on a single topic and directed analysis of it will promote deeper experience.
That last series of meditation that you just described, do you try to do that all in one session, or is that over time? Okay, one session.
You do it all in one session.
Okay.